Okay, how is everyone doing? Um, I'm thinking, I don't know what to talk about. Maybe I'll make an example of our economic system and what's wrong with it, right? Um, why is it broken? People don't understand why is it. How do the Jews break our economy, right? How do these Jewish bankers destroy the economy, destroy the real wealth of the economy? Well, I'll show you how. Okay, um, I have been I'll give you some real life examples. I've been in a trade school boot camp type thing, right? I'm a younger gentleman, and so I've been, around a lot of the local contractors for this town I live in. A lot of the local builders who take a lot of pride in their work. They love what they do, and a lot of them are also the average age of those construction workers, those laborers, etc., are about 60. It's about 60 years old. They're old white men, and they're all about usually around 60. Some of them are even 67, pushing 70 years old working construction. It's pretty incredible. But anyway, a lot of them are vets too. That's the other thing. All have really hard work ethic, really respectable men. But uh, they always bring up 2008 and how they thought it was over for them then. They didn't think they were getting out of it. And luckily there was enough camaraderie here where if they knew they were working on a project and they knew someone else was seeking another construction or contracting group, they would send it their buddy's way, right? Their comrade's way. Even if they're competition, they'd still send it their way. There's camaraderie like that, which is good to see, and that's what kept a lot of them alive. But it was still hard. They still got pay cuts. Slowly, things started to die out, whether it be company vehicles or gas cards, etc. These things started to go away. So 2008 really it murdered a lot of the guys. It murdered a lot of the companies. Really just wiped them out. And why is this? Well, it's because our financial system is fixed on debt, right? It's fixed on this boom and bust cycle is what it's called. What they call it is the business cycle. That's incorrect. That's how they frame it to sell it to the public. What it really is it's a Jewish debt cycle. Jewish debt cycle, okay? And people need to wake up to this. You got to wake people up to this, okay? That's what's really causing it, okay? And I'll juxtapose this current system, this Jewish debt system, to a just system that could actually create real prosperity, real wealth, and also fix the labor issue, the labor shortage, get people working, right? People who are seeking quality jobs, you can get them working under works programs. And this is how you would expand. Anyway, I'll get into this later. This is how you expand the money supply, but I'll touch on this later. First, let me address why we go into these booms and busts, right? Well, basically, our whole economy is built on debt, right? Every dollar you see is debt, okay? The system does not grow unless more people take on debt, all right? And not only that, it's the fractional reserve banking, too. So they're creating money out of thin air, which creates massive amounts of inflation. But it's also it's it's illusory wealth that these banks have. They just create money out of thin air and they loan it out to you at debt, right? And you pay interest on this. Well, the thing is, when the whole system is based on debt, there is only so much money in the system to pay off the debt, right? But that gets created, right? Let's say you take a $10,000 loan out and you got 10% monthly interest on it, right? That interest is not accounted for. That interest does not exist in the system. There's not enough money in the system to pay that interest. And so do you see what's going on here? As long as people keep taking out more and more debt, right, the money can circulate to a certain level. But when people become maxed out on debt, when too much debt is taken out, and then everyone's playing musical chairs to pay off their debt, to pay off the interest, and they can no longer take out more debt to pay the debt, or take someone else's debt that they took out to pay their own debt, et cetera, et cetera. You see how this snowballs, right? You see how this completely snowballs? That's how you end up with a crash, because then the dominoes start to fall. One person can't get into the chair anymore, right? the music stops playing and no one can get some. People are left out, not being able to pick up a chair. It's not their own fault. It's not. They blame themselves, right? Oh man, if I was better in the business, if I did better in this business, etc., etc. The first thing they do is blame themselves. No, wrong. And the libertarians love to do this. They love to blame the government, and they love to blame the own people who took the debt out. Wrong, right? You cannot grow in this system without debt. You can't even get ahead without debt, okay? That's just the reality. It's very hard to without it, all right? So don't go blaming yourself. Don't ever blame the victim. Don't ever blame the victim, all right? So that's the thing. There's not enough money, and the music stops playing, and there's people who, maybe they were running a decent business, but they had no cash flow, right? There's not enough money in the system to pay that debt off. That's what you got to get when someone else hoards their money and they say, I can't do this anymore, right? I'm having the clients, I'm struggling to make the money to pay off, and I can't keep this going. So I'm going to start saving as much as I can. And then the dominoes start to fall, right? And that's how you end up with these booms and busts, because the boom was created on this massive debt bubble that it completely crashes. It completely crashes. The whole stock market going up, all these assets rising in value, the value of the dollar, etc. All these things, they crash. Of course, once the inflation sets in, because people realize, holy shit, we just inflated the money supply immensely. But you end up with a massive bust, right? And that was 2008, that's 2001, that's et cetera, et cetera. You can show it over and over again. That's the Great Depression, right? Ben Bernanke, or was it Alan Greenspan? One of them, they admitted the Federal Reserve caused the Great Depression, right? Of course it did. It was by design. It's always by design with these Jews. They know exactly what they're doing. It's in the fucking Talmud, right? It's in the Talmud. When I tell people that the Talmud is a blueprint for their control, they shake, no way it could go back that far. People were just stupid oafs back then, right? No. Get the fuck out of here. People were not there. If anything, people were smarter back then. The Talmud tells them how to take control through debt and these various instruments that they can manipulate. Okay? So, I guess I explained that well enough. That's how you end up with these booms and busts, right? And it just decimates the working man. It steals his wealth, right? It decimates the working man, because they have no choice but to take things out on debt and to do things on debt, etc., because that's the only way things really grow in this economy. So when I hear and see examples like that, I take it to heart, because I know the truth, right? I know what's really going on. People think, oh, it's a business cycle. Oh, it's this and that. It's this and... No. It all goes back to the money creation process. It all goes back to everything being all the currency in this system coming from debt. Okay, that's all it goes back to. Now, a truly just system where the government does not go into debt, right? Where the government actually owns the currency. Let me give you an example of that, okay? Let's say I'm starting my new government, and my economy is I create the money. I control the money supply, right? It's in the Constitution that Congress should control the money supply, right? That's how it was meant to be. Jefferson quoted, if the banks are allowed to issue and control the money supply, then my children will wake up homeless on the nation their forefathers conquered, something like that. It's along those lines. But anyway, that's exactly what the truth was, right? We allowed the banks to control the money supply. No, it should be the government. The government should control the money supply, debt-free. The government should not be going into debt to borrow money. That's ludicrous when they can print the money themselves. All right, and libertarians are, well, it doesn't give the money real value. You need to use gold and silver. Gold and silver are a fucking joke. Get the fuck out with gold and silver. Yes, can you use gold and silver? Sure. But who owns most of the gold, most of the physical gold and silver? Hello? Is it not all the elites? Is it not the Rothschilds? Give me a break, right? This goes way back with the money changers. Or coin clipping was what they used to call it. They used to shave off the gold from the coin, and then the Jews are notorious for that. Okay, that's what they're known for. But anyway, So get the fuck out of here with gold and silver. Government needs to own the currency themselves. Okay, they need to print the currency themselves. They need to control the supply of the currency themselves. And this way, it's completely debt-free, right? You're not in a debt-based economy. And if you wanted to increase the money supply and you wanted to get people working and you wanted to spur the economy, then what you do is you'd invest in infrastructure, right? And you'd host a works program like some countries that did this in the 1930s that ended up getting decimated during the war and villainized for the next 100 years, 90 years now. You end up doing that, and guess what? You have massive economic boom, all at debt-free economic boom. That's how you become a powerhouse, right? And the Greeks were doing this before the Persians came about, who were funded by a certain class of merchant bankers to wage war against them, right? This is what they were doing. Nations that have understood this have become superpowers because they have created the wealth themselves, right? They have control over their own economy. They avoid the debt-based system. You don't end up with these booms and busts. You won't end up with hyperinflation. The thing is, when you create a works program and you're investing in the infrastructure, there's real value to it. You're actually improving the nation. You're putting people to work. There's real resources and materials involved. Everything's real. It's not just money printing. It's not just wildly money printing and buying assets like the quantitative easing that the Federal Reserve does. Okay, it's real. It's real wealth. And not only that, you're giving money to people who then go and spend that in the economy, and it just all carries over. You're not giving it to the banks like how we are now through quantitative easing. So I think that's my main point. I wanted to just kind of abstract the two systems and compare them to each other and explain how that works and how we could have a better monetary system compared to what we have now. I hope I went into enough detail. I hope I talked long enough to explain that. But if anything doesn't make sense, then comment below and I'll answer it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care, and I love you all.